Gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
The fucking trees walked in those movies.
Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your number one fan.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Marathon Me with your hosts Rhys
And Kane.
and we're back in our Quentin Tarantino marathon doing another double episode where we're talking about two movies but also sort of talking about one, because this one that we're talking about is an interesting experiment that Quentin Tarantino had organised with his fellow directorial friend, Robert Rodriguez, where they both big fans of the exploitation cinema genre. So decided, hey, let's collaborate, make one film each, but playing into one another to collaborate and make our own Grindhouse double feature. So this episode is talking about both films, Planet Terror and Death Proof, which are both together Grindhouse. Kane, have you seen these back to back together? What was your take?
Well, one, I had never. This is the first time I have ever watched Death Proof and Planet Terror. These are movies that I've always known existed because they are a kind of, they're somewhat considered part of the horror genre, obviously. But so I knew they existed because massive horror fan, but never watched them. Never had an interest in watching them, honestly. Really, and honestly, going into them. It wasn't that I was a bit going into them begrudgingly, but I was kind of like, after the high that was Kill Bill, I was kind of expecting to maybe be not really let down, but maybe like a bit more passive towards watching the Grindhouse experience. Even though, I love Quentin Tarantino, and I do like Robert Rodriguez as a director, but I was a bit apprehensive, I would say.
Well, that is fair, because the last weird experimental film that Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino worked on together was Four Rooms. So,
yes, and that was not exactly the highlight of either of their respective careers.
Yeah, let's just hope that this experiment anthology is a little bit better. But
Yes.
I think that before we talk about the movies, we've got to talk about an integral part of this double billing, which is the fake trailers before the film, which is maybe one of the most impactful parts of this movie on popular culture.
Yeah,
Kane,
yeah. Rhys,
did you see these trailers?
Yeah, I kind of have a confession to make. I didn't watch the trailers.
Fuck!
I didn't watch. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I didn't watch the trailers. I'm sorry, Rhys. It's not like I already told you this 5 minutes before recording. This is
I was just about to say.
This is completely unknown knowledge that I'm just telling you now.
This is the first time I've heard of this. No, Kane told me just before recording.
Yeah.
It's okay, but when I first watched Death Proof, they had the trailer. I watched it on Stan, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And they had the trailers on, like, built into the Stan stream for this film. Yeah, so I watched them unintentionally. And also, when I went to go see Kill Bill in the cinema, they played the Grindhouse trailers beforehand.
Oh yeah, nice.
So
nice.
I also got to see them in the cinema, which is pretty great.
That is pretty nice.
But that's okay, because the stream that I watched this time on Amazon Prime did not have the trailers there. So I had to go into YouTube, watch the trailers that came on before Planet Terror, which were Machete and I think Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which was a real movie, but one of the only real movies that was like played here. And then watched Planet Terror, then went back to YouTube quickly to watch. I'll list what the other trailers were. So, Don't, directed by Edgar Wright, which was a fake horror, like a fake slasher movie trailer.
Yeah.
My favorite by far. It is fucking hilarious and is just like very, very over the top sort of slasher fare.
You reckon it would have been a better Edgar Wright horror movie than Last Night in Soho?
I think so, because I fucking despise Last Night in Soho. God, such a rough watch. I would rather watch Don't. The trailer for Don't over and over again so that it goes for an hour and 45 minutes rather than watching Last Night in Soho
Yeah,
again.
I'm not. I mean, I don't hate it, but I have no feelings towards it whatsoever. It was a very nothing movie to me.
And before Planet Terror, there was a fake trailer for the movie Machete, which, of course, you would know now is a real film.
Yes.
And then there was also the trailer for Thanksgiving by Eli Roth, not a real movie. Nice. Werewolf Women of the SS by Rob Zombie, not a real movie, but I wish that it was. Yeah. And then Hobo with a Shotgun, which was actually an independent sort of, like, no budget, made by a no-name group of sort of filmmakers, that they won a competition and submitted their fake exploitation trailer to Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino, and then they chose it, and so it won this competition, and they put it, and they played it before Death Proof, awesome. Between Planet Terror and Death Proof. How fucking cool would that be?
That's sick as fuck.
And out of these 5 trailers that I just mentioned for movies that did not exist at the time, as you probably would have already figured out, Machete and Hobo with a Shotgun, real movies now that were made post the fake trailers of this movie. So this has already spawned, like, the Grindhouse double feature already spawned 2 other films.
That's pretty fucking cool.
And have you heard that there is another film that has just recently gotten a trailer released, a real trailer released, because it is becoming an actual film?
No, I don't know. What movie is it?
It's Thanksgiving, directed by Eli Roth.
Oh, really?
Is getting a film. I thought that this would be more impactful because I would have thought that you would have seen the trailers and I thought this would be a big reveal. But so it doesn't really have a lot of weight where you're sort of like, what the fuck is Thanksgiving? But anyway, after this episode, you should definitely watch these trailers because they're very, very entertaining.
I like Eli Roth and all that, so I probably will have to check it out.
But isn't that a cool fucking concept, right?
No, it is.
5 fake trailers made for the presentation of this Grindhouse homage, and 3 out of the 5 have become or are becoming real feature-length films.
That is really cool. Now all we're going to do is just wait for Edgar Wright's Don't to come out and the Werewolf Women of the SS by Rob Zombie, and then we'll have the full package. God damn,
exactly.
God damn, bro. We should have probably watched Machete and also watched Hobo with a Shotgun for this episode.
Technically, like, they are in the canon of this, like, Grindhouse thing. And it was a concept that was the idea that Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez had, that Grindhouse was going to be a mini sort of franchise where they both direct and add to this Grindhouse sort of collection, where they keep on making more and more of these sort of subgenre exploitation films to add to the Grindhouse lexicon.
Oh, that would have been fucking cool.
So they thought that they were going to keep it on going. And in a way, Robert Rodriguez sort of did by making Machete, because it is a Robert Rodriguez film.
Yeah.
So Grindhouse is going to soon be 5 feature films, in a way, spiritually connected.
Oh, God, bro, we should have just done a separate marathon for all of these, for, like, the Grindhouse marathon, like...
We totally could, get them all done in a day, but honestly, I'm sort of glad that we didn't, because before we talk about the actual films, here is the trailer for Grindhouse.
First, they're stealing biochemical weapons. When the laws of science are broken, the last hope for humanity rests in the hands of a few. Doc Block, his prescription, pain.
We're gonna lose the arm, Joe.
What do you mean lose arm? My arm?
Dakota, one hot mama who knows the score.
If anyone comes to the door, I want you to shoot them.
What if it's Dad?
Hello, baby.
Especially if it's your dad.
Buckle up, because a new kind of terror is coming at 200 miles per hour.
Ladies, we're gonna have some fun. There are a few things as fetching as a bruised ego and a beautiful angel.
Is that cowboy wisdom?
I'm not a cowboy, Pam. I'm a stuntman.
Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof.
This car is 100% death proof. Only to get the benefit of it, honey, you really need to be sitting in my seat.
adrenaline-fueled roller coasters. One ticket to ride. In 2.5 hours of pure dynamite. Planet Terror and Death Proof. Only at the Grindhouse.
I really like the order of these films because, honestly, Planet Terror, which is the first one that plays before Death Proof, the Robert Rodriguez one, so we'll only sort of touch on it.
Oh, wait.
I really didn't.
Wait,
yeah?
I'm sorry to interrupt your opinions, but Planet Terror goes before Death Proof?
Yeah, it does.
I always thought that it was the other way around. I thought Death Proof goes before Planet Terror. That's how I watched them.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
What the fuck?
So, I'm pretty sure, I looked it up and Reddit told me that Planet Terror goes before Death Proof.
Well, if Reddit says so, then it must be correct.
Also, on the movie poster, because the movie poster itself is an homage to the Grindhouse double bill movie posters, it usually does go left to right of what the order of the screenings are.
Interesting.
And, so like, was yours just sort of like an assumption, or did you hear from...
No, mine was an assumption.
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually great, man, because then we can compare our experiences with it. Because I loved the order of Planet Terror and then Death Proof.
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, I really did not like Planet Terror.
I kind of saw that coming because I think I saw your review on Letterboxd for it, and I was like, oh, interesting. But I think that might have been an old review, so I was thinking like, oh, maybe his opinion has changed, but clearly has not. Not a Planet Terror head, are we?
As a really like brief sort of overview, really did not like Planet Terror, but Death Proof I adored the fuck out of. I loved Death Proof. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I want to hear about your experience of watching it the other way around.
Okay, alright, so my assumption was, I really have no reasoning for why I assumed it was the other way around. I just kind of, just guessed or assumed. So I watched...
You went alphabetical order. Maybe that's the thing.
Maybe. Do you want me to... Can I talk about Planet Terror first? Just get my opinions out the way? Yeah, so Planet Terror was kind of like my little palate cleanser after Death Proof. Planet Terror, it was fine. Like, I don't really have any strong feelings towards the movie. I had fun with it, but because the film itself... how do I describe it? It's a very... When you really break it down, Planet Terror is just a very basic kind of bland zombie movie with some interesting gore effects and some kind of weird kind of concepts. And I, being a huge zombie fan, I didn't mind it so much. I liked the, it's doing the whole cliches of like, oh, the town's infected, we gotta get supplies, the town coming together and fighting the zombies. Like, that is stuff that, like, I grew up on. That's stuff that, like, that what got me into the horror genre was the zombie genre. And so I sat there, I enjoyed my time, and I'm already forgetting about the film.
Yeah, it is... For as much that happens in it, and as loud as the film is, very forgettable.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't say that I hated my experience with Planet Terror, but I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone. Like, if you want to watch, like, over-the-top zombie movies, there's so many more better films out there than this. Like, honestly. Hell, there's even better Robert Rodriguez films out there than this, man. Like, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. Like, it would make for good background noise, I think, but there's so many more better options that you could choose from.
I really don't like when campiness feels really forced. It felt like there was a lot of forced campiness in Planet Terror.
Yeah.
And on the same sort of realm of like Sharknado, where it's really, really intentional and doesn't feel like a product of it being independent or being from like a sort of lesser skilled, more like amateur director. What I don't like about the forced campiness of some films is when it really, really feels like you're better than this. You're better than this and can be making a better movie. Why are you choosing to make a worse film? I'm much more privy to admire a campy film that is made by someone that isn't very experienced, and that's as good as they can do. and they're really sort of putting their heart and soul into it, and you can see, and the flaws are a flaw of a human being that you can sort of latch onto, and the humanity comes through it here. Where, like, even down to, like, on a literal sense, this film is shot in high definition, and all the grit and age feels really plied on. Like, it's made to seem like that it's shot on film and that reels are missing, and that, like, some of the film will, like, burn out at different times and things like that.
Yeah.
But it feels so digitally put on.
Yeah, it definitely feels the whole grit and grindhouse aspect of this movie feels a bit too try hard at a lot of times. Like, a lot of the I think the parts that I enjoyed the least about this movie was whenever it tried to be like campy or really try to hone in on that grindhouse nature. I enjoyed the movie when it was just being like a basic by the numbers zombie movie. Whenever it tried to do anything that was, like, you know, over the top or campy, kind of took me out of it. Not took me out of it, but, like, I was just like, I don't care. Like, the whole, like, I found it interesting as well that the whole, like, marketing of this movie is like, oh, it's a zombie movie with a woman with a gun for a leg, and then the gun leg is in, like, the last, like, 10 minutes of the movie, which I found hilarious.
Yeah.
Never knew that. Never knew that went going in. But then, even then, it was like, I was just kind of like, okay, like, I mean, yeah, that's cool, but I kind of don't care. Like, it just feels very like, oh yeah. Like, the way the movie portrays is like, oh yeah, this is cool. Bet you this ain't your grandmother's zombie movie. And I'm just like, I'm just like, I liked it better when she had the bloody table leg for a leg, honestly.
Yeah, it was just, it felt like I was really waiting for something to happen that just never really happened.
Yeah.
And like, the whole time, from when our female lead loses her leg, you're just waiting for her to get this gun leg, because that's the freaking main thing of the poster. She's right in the middle with her gun leg. I want to see this in action, and it just takes so long to get there. And then you see a couple of different little action sequences with that, and that's all. And it just, it felt, in comparison to the sort of authentic, gritty nature of Death Proof, which is actually shot on film, it, like, this just feels so synthetic. It feels very, very synthetic, I think, and very artificial.
Yeah, it feels very manufactured, like a manufactured grit, honestly. And I don't know, it's nothing that I would really like. Yeah, it's nothing that I'd really recommend to anyone and all that. It's not awful. I had fun, but I wouldn't say I really loved the movie. I don't love this movie. I think it's just whatever.
Did you also feel like that this film just had a lot of unused assets going for it? Like, Josh Brolin and Bruce Willis
Oh my fucking god, yes, dude. I mean, like, dude, yeah. Like, throughout like the second half of the movie, I'm like, bro, this movie really needs some more Josh Brolin, because, like, whenever Josh Brolin was on screen, I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is fun. I like what he's doing, but I think that's just because I like Josh Brolin. I'm a sucker for him. I'm a sucker for Thanos, so I was just happy whenever he was on screen.
I agree. I feel like that when he is on screen, probably the highlights of the film.
Yeah.
But then, on the other hand, Bruce Willis adds nothing to it. I feel he was not interesting in the slightest, and he's only fucking on screen for, like, I think 3 scenes or something.
I will say one thing that I kind of liked was him kind of giving a little bit of backstory before he dies and why they're wearing the respirators. I thought that was somewhat interesting. Talking about how, like, they were, like, he's trying, like, his whole, I don't know what, I kind of I honestly, I did kind of tune out, so it's kind of like so it's kind of like going against, like, me complimenting his monologue before he dies, but, him going on about, like, oh, I'm doing anything I can to save my men from the disease that we have and all that. I don't know, I appreciated that. That was kind of interesting. Maybe if it was developed more, it probably would have made for a more rewarding experience, but, it's there.
Okay.
It's there if you give a shit.
I for sure was checked out at that point.
Yeah, okay.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I was just not... My brain was not in it. That was one where I really was fighting the urge to check my phone during Planet Terror.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I don't blame you. What about look, Rhys? What about the most unused asset, the Fergie cameo?
I can't even believe that. Like, it's just a why? Why is it there? It's served no purpose, man.
I think it makes sense. This was like 2007. This was like probably pretty much like the height of the Black Eyed Peas fame and Fergie as an artist. I remember seeing her on screen and I'm like, is that Fergie? And then I look at the Amazon Prime fucking behind the scenes X-ray tidbits. See that's her, and then I'm like fucking freaking out because like I've been on a bit of a I'll admit I've been on a bit of a Black Eyed Peas binge recently. Not really like listening to the albums or anything, but just listening to a lot of their hits. I've been kind of, you know, re-listening to some of them, including their you know the song "Let's Get It Started," Rhys, by Black Eyed Peas.
Oh yeah, let's get it started.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the original version?
No, I do not think so.
Are you not?
I don't think so.
Let's just say there's a very politically incorrect word in it.
Oh,
let's get blank. I'll talk to you after the show.
Okay, I'm interested now. Now I'm just gonna be powering through the rest of the episode and like, let's get what, Kane? Let's get what? I don't know what it is.
You're gonna have a laugh about it. I'll tell you what.
Okay, I'm happy to move on to the real meat and potatoes of this episode. Do you want to talk about Death Proof?
Fuck yes, man.
Okay,
I'm very keen.
So the origin of Death Proof is that Tarantino knew that they were going to do this like horror grindhouse double feature, but he didn't know what genre to go for. And this was his original idea before Death Proof actually came into effect.
Yeah.
He wanted to do a horror grindhouse film with this subtext of race relations where a gang of female history students study and explore a plantation of the Old South, and then get, quote, systematically raped and murdered by the ghost of a slave played by Sam Jackson.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Also, I just, like, love the quote from the book that I was reading, systematically raped and murdered by the ghost of a slave.
What the fuck does that mean? What?
And I know, right? Like, I think systematically he must mean in the same way that like slasher movies, like one by one, sort of ticked off, sort of thing.
I guess that is, oh my fucking god.
And the idea that he wanted to play with here was that he wanted to get viewers to be on the side of the slave because of this idea of like you don't want to be against the slave. Like it's these white students that are coming to the plantation and sort of appropriating it, and we're supposed to sort of root for the slave in that situation.
That is fucking weird.
But so that's all pretty weird, right? But this is the weirdest bit about it. Guess why he chose? No, I'm not going to do this.
I don't know. Maybe because of that whole fucking that pitch sounds fucking ridiculous.
Because people booed him out of the pitching room. No, because he said it seemed too orthodox. The idea was too orthodox for him.
Okay.
Not weird enough. Not really weird enough. Not nuanced enough. So he didn't want to go with it.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Instead,
oh, Jesus Christ.
Instead, we get Death Proof. And oh my god, am I glad. Because I love Death Proof. What do you think of Death Proof?
I had such a fucking great time with Death Proof.
Yes,
man. I loved it. And also like again, because like Planet Terror, like I was honestly kind of going into honestly I expected to react the way that I did because like that was my palate cleanser. So like I obviously was not going to like it as much as Death Proof because, like, after watching Death Proof, I'm like, oh my fucking god, that was great. Planet Terror is going to suck shit compared to this. That was my thoughts going in. And then I'm like, oh, Planet Terror was whatever. But compared to Death Proof, oh my fucking god, that film can go die because Death Proof was so much fun. I loved it.
Oh, I'm glad, man. I'm glad because... And I'm glad that also watching it first before Planet Terror didn't, like, ruin the experience because... For me, honestly, if I would have, like... I think that I would have sort of forgotten about all the because I think Death Proof really got me thinking about things after the film.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I had to watch Planet Terror right away afterwards, those thoughts would have been pummeled by this, like, shallow shit that is Planet Terror.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that it's the other way around.
Oh yeah, definitely. I wish that I had watched it the other way around, but you know what? It is what it is. I still can say that I've seen Death Proof and had a great time with it.
And it's another Tarantino joint where it imitates another era's style of filmmaking so much that you feel like you're in the era. You really, really feel like that. You get convinced that these characters must be in the 70s, right?
Yeah, I thought that for the first half of the movie, I'm thinking like, yeah, this is the 70s, and then the second someone pulls out a cell phone, I'm like, I was generally thrown for a loop. I'm like, what the fuck? Holy shit.
I know, right? I love that. It's like the same thing that Jackie Brown does. You're convinced that you're in the 70s, but then you're like, hey, wait a minute, no, they're in the 90s.
Especially with like the soundtrack as well. Like the soundtrack is all like 70s shit. So I was so convinced that like this was like a period movie, you know?
Yeah. And what I really, really love about this is that I think that essentially the concept of the film is that a late 60s, early 70s exploitation villain falls into the lives of these women in 2007. That's what it feels like to me, is that Kurt Russell's character is almost like that he has fallen into a time portal and has somehow managed to get into the present day. I think that's fucking awesome.
That is a
cool concept, right?
That is a good way to look at the film, honestly. Like recontextualizing Death Proof after your whole your kind of explanation of Kurt Russell's character, very fucking interesting. Like, makes me even appreciate the film more and have a lot more fun thinking about it. You know what I mean?
And like, I find it really interesting because I think that there's a reason also why Stuntman Mike is the character that he is, which is also interesting that this is not the last late 60s stuntman character that Tarantino features, right?
Yeah.
So I think that he really is fascinated by this idea of the stuntman in this era of filmmaking. And it is an interesting archetype to explore because I think that I know what it is. It's this glam era of Hollywood but the least glam role, right? Like, it's a very, like Hollywood's a very glamorous sort of in almost like this stardom age in this era of late 60s, early 70s. But then the stuntman is someone that is content with not absorbing the glamorous nature of it. And is there willing to put themselves a danger for the entertainment of the whole thing. And also the fact that it's a dying archetype with less and less stunts being actually done in Hollywood because of special effects and CGI. And how like even being a stuntman now is probably, it would be nowhere near as actually dangerous and risky as it would have been in the 60s and 70s. Like, you really had to be a tough son of a bitch in that era because you are really putting yourself at risk in those sort of situations.
Like
where
you quite literally had to be built different back then.
Yeah. And like, I think that's what he's interested in exploring, is that Hollywood isn't made for that archetype anymore. Even though that they were like the ballsiest parts at play in those sort of films. And allowing these action films to be made without the stuntmen, then you wouldn't get any of these car movies, any of these any races, anything like Bullet. Like, you needed those people to be there to allow it to all happen because they didn't have the fallback of CGI. And that's it's almost a little bit of a revenge film. So it's definitely a revenge film for the women eventually.
Yeah.
But it's also Stuntman Mike putting up his middle finger to modernity, I think, that has left him behind.
Yeah, it's old Hollywood taking revenge on the fact that they've been kind of rendered rendered irrelevant because of new Hollywood.
Yeah, completely. And what baffles me is that Tarantino really sees this as his worst film. He sees it objectively as his worst film.
Like Tarantino's own words, he says that this is his worst movie.
Tarantino's own words.
Really?
He does say that he's sort of happy, though, with the fact that if this is his worst work that he ever does, he can still die happy.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, definitely his bottom of the rung. And I think that also it's not as fondly sort of looked upon as well, or critically acclaimed as a lot of his other films. But I think this movie has a lot to say. And honestly, maybe a little bit more to say than Kill Bill, or has like a little bit more of a direction of what he's saying than Kill Bill. So I was so satisfied by this.
Yeah, I would definitely not consider this his worst movie. I mean, we haven't finished all of his movies yet, but like so far from what I've seen, this is nowhere near his worst movie. This is like, I had such a fucking blast watching this, man. Is it a bit of a step down from Kill Bill? Yeah, of course, but like not by much, honestly. Like this is a solid 8 out of 10 for me, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, man. I'm glad because it's also like it's fairly slow. Like it's really slow.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man. The biggest surprise for me of this movie is that like it's very slow. I went into this movie expecting it to be like, you know, a slasher movie, basically. Like, I thought that this was going to be like a very, like, you know, almost Friday the 13th, like, slasher style movie with, you know, following the killer, like, picking off the victims one by one. And then, obviously, what happens to, like, Rose McGowan and, like, her group of friends and all that halfway through the movie threw me for a fucking loop.
Oh my god.
Holy shit. Also, I will just say as well, not only can I give props to the slow nature of this movie, but the fact that, like, this movie's violence is very brief. Like you get, like, it's brutal as fuck. Like, the car crash sequence halfway through this movie is genuinely horrific, and also the early kill when he has the passenger slam her head against the windscreen. Like, that is I was genuinely like horrified watching that. I'm like, oh my fucking god. And
isn't it interesting too that those are the only deaths in the film?
Yeah. Like, it's very, like, the violence is so, like, especially compared to Kill Bill, it's so sparing, but when it happens, it's so fucking effective that, I was not expecting it, but I'm honestly so much more happy with what I got with this, like, more slow-paced film with sudden bursts of brutality and cruelty.
The violence in here has so much weight that you really feel all of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it works so well in the context of the film as well, because you know how we were talking about the Hangout movie earlier with Jackie Brown and Pulp Fiction?
Yes.
This 100% qualifies as a Hangout movie.
Oh my god, yeah, dude, half this movie is literally just girls chilling, basically, and I was here for it. And while watching it, I'm like, especially like during the second half, I'm like, I don't want these characters to die. Like, I'm like, especially during, like, when Rosario Dawson and her crew, gang are like introduced and all that. I was generally like, during the car chase scene, I'm like, I don't want these characters to die. Like, I please don't die. I really like my time spent with these characters, which is like, if a horror movie can make me feel that way about their characters, you're doing something right.
Oh, totally. And that's why also the brutality of the first group of girls dying is so important, is because it sort of shows us where it could be leading for this second group.
Yeah.
And we don't want it to happen because it hurt so much for us when it happened the first time.
Oh my god, yeah.
That violence is something that I watched this film for the first time during lockdown, so probably like around 2 years ago or so.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, and that car crash scene has stayed with me. Especially the leg being thrown out of the car stayed with me, and I always remember that. And throughout the first half of this movie, I was dreading that moment because of just how brutal that is.
Yeah.
I don't think that I've seen something like violence like that before.
It is fucked, because I've seen the car crash out of context. Many other important scenes from, like, Tarantino films, I've seen the scene out of context, and, like, as a kid, you know, desensitized to horror, I'm like, whatever, this is kind of cool. But yeah, as an adult with the context, it's so much more impactful. Like, holy shit, especially like when the tire is like running up. I think it was Rose McGowan that, like, the tire like runs up her face and like just shreds her face off. Like,
my god,
so fucked up, man. Oh my god.
That is hard to be witness to, right? It is just
oh my god, yeah.
I felt the same way. Like, I just like every time it makes me freaking like I audibly react to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't Rose McGowan that gets the tire on her face, because she's the one in the Death Proof car when she's the one that gets thrown around inside the car.
Rose McGowan?
Yeah.
No, isn't the main girl in like the first group Rose McGowan?
No. Rose McGowan she's the one at the bar that is
really?
talking to Stuntman Mike, without a doubt, 100%. She's dyed her hair blonde for that role though.
Okay, interesting.
100%. The person that gets their face like torn apart is Vanessa Ferlito. I don't think I know her from anything else, but she's the one that has like this like really cute, interesting nostril thing going on.
Okay,
where, like,
I didn't notice the nostril thing.
she's also the one that does the lap dance on Stuntman Mike.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, you feel it so much, and it really makes you afraid of cars. And great advertisement for seatbelts.
Oh my fucking god, yeah, man! Like. This is because like I Kane, a 22-year-old male, I still don't have my learners. I don't have a car, and honestly, I honestly kind of have a fear of the idea of driving, because especially after watching this.
It's put another delay. It's put another several-year delay on you getting your learners.
Well, between this and 1996's Crash, I'm not comfortable with the idea of driving. Like, have you seen the movie Crash by David Cronenberg?
No, I haven't.
Do you know about it, yeah?
I do know about it. I've seen the 2004 film Crash.
Just a little bit different. This Crash is about, people getting a sexual thrill from car crashes and being mangled up. A little bit different.
Oh my god, I need to watch this. It's
an interesting watch, honestly. Just do not watch it with anyone. I was very scared Mum was going to come in and watch it, because it's very graphic.
I'm adding it to my Amazon Prime list right now, because apparently it's on Amazon Prime.
It's a good movie though. It's a really good movie. Really
it's here.
Interesting watch.
Oh, it's included in Paramount Plus, apparently. Okay, we're good.
Okay,
we're good.
Sweet.
I will give you my review of Crash in a week.
All right, I look forward to it. But yeah, going back to Death Proof, yeah, it's fucking horrifying. And also, I think one thing I thought about with this movie is that, like, because when I went into this movie, again, I thought it was a slasher movie. I thought, like, this car is actually quote unquote death proof. I kind of like that watching the movie. You don't get a sense that the car is death proof, honestly. You just get a sense that, like, Mike is just really fucking lucky, in a sense.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? Like, honestly, because, like, one hand you can watch the movie and be like, oh yeah, the car is death proof. There's maybe a bit of a supernatural thing going on, or it's just like, whatever. But I watched this and I'm like, oh, it's just a dude that's really fucking lucky and just knows how to deal with car crashes and all that. And the car's not actually death proof. It's just, he's just a fucking good stunt driver. Bit too good.
I feel like that it doesn't feel supernatural, but Stuntman Mike has such a menacing presence because of the way that the stuntmen of this era are being presented as just like another beast.
Oh,
because
yeah.
Tarantino really, really wants to say here that it's no joke being a stuntman.
Yeah, he's like, these motherfuckers built different.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I find so fascinating about this film that I did not notice at all the first time around, that I only noticed this time around because of the Planet Terror double feature, is that firstly, it's essentially a 2-act film.
Yeah.
That wasn't what I didn't notice, but what I didn't notice was how strange the presentation of the film is, because the first act starts with this very overtly 70s film aesthetic. You can see the film grain, you can see that the lighting feels very, very 70s, and then it goes in that when the second act starts, it goes to this black and white look that makes you almost assume that it's like is this a flashback, or is this sort of going to an even older version of a slasher movie?
Yeah.
And then it then it just snaps out of it and then takes this contemporary look. Like, it has this very contemporary, like, mid-2000s aesthetic.
Yeah, dude, I didn't notice it at first, and then, like, halfway through that segment, I'm like, holy fucking shit. It changed. What the hell? Like, it took me a little bit.
And there's a lot of little detail, not even just the way that the film grain is gone and things like that, but even during the first half of this film, I definitely, something that I actively thought was, wow, this is the most male-gazy of Tarantino's films so far.
Yeah.
The first shot is this close-up foot shot on the freaking, what's it called? On the front dash.
On the dash, yeah. I was in hysterics. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go.
But the music that's going as it starts, the is just, feels so good. It has so much weight to it that I don't even care about the feet. But then after that, we get this tracking shot of our main character's ass as they're walking through their living room.
Yeah.
And it does, the lens definitely does sexualize this first group of women a lot.
Yeah.
It added to the fact that there's a 5-minute lap dancing scene.
Yeah.
But I was almost like, oh, okay, I can see the flaws of maybe Tarantino's filmmaking here and why, maybe this is definitely his one for the boys. As in, he's gone pretty out there and not having a lot of tact with it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they do go to the modern day, the lens stops. That's what makes me think that it's not him being a misogynist or being really, really sexist and sort of crass when it comes to the way that he's presenting women at times, is that it feels actively like a representation and a play off of how women were presented in films in the era that he's paying homage to.
Yeah, that was my thought process watching the movie. I'm like, okay, this makes sense why they're overtly sexualized, because that was a lot of how women were portrayed in 70s exploitation horror films and all that. So it made sense to me.
Because of how much it distinctly changes when the second half comes along and the lens gets a much more contemporary motivation to it.
Yeah.
That makes me think that it's him replicating something. It's not saying that this is how the world should be sort of shown. It's saying how films are different now and how the role of women in films is so much different and it doesn't form to any sort of mold of what it used to be. And that's where a lot of the impact of this film, I think, comes from for me, and what got me thinking about it more and more, And that's how in the second act, the power dynamics are so switched over. It's also, I don't know if you noticed this, but half of the group of our second female group are stunt women that prove themselves as badass as stuntman Mike. And shows that they don't have to conform to this sort of final girl disposable convention that a typical slasher movie goes for. And that's where it actually has something to say and is quite deep and has... It proves to have some commentary on the slasher genre, where Planet Terror, I don't think has much commentary on the genre that it's playing on.
I don't think I got any kind of semblance of commentary or anything deep and meaningful to say about the zombie genre or the Grindhouse genre as a whole. I didn't get anything I didn't get any thematic resonance from fucking Planet Terror. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, totally. Did you also like how abruptly Death Proof ends?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I literally was like, oh, that's it? Oh, no. But it was very funny. Threw me for a loop. But I was also like, oh no, I wanted more. No.
It was. I love the way that it really, really does pull the rug from under you, right?
Yeah.
But it feels very, very intentional and fitting, because it's it ends right when the women have won.
Yeah.
And right when it's okay, the equilibrium has been established again, sort of thing. And that's when it's it said everything that it has to say, done, finished, now let's move on. Fucking awesome.
It's so fucking good, so funny the way it ends, I love it.
And you want to hear a weird connection with this abrupt ending?
Yeah.
Is that Damien Chazelle has said in an interview that he was the abrupt ending of Whiplash was inspired by the ending of Death Proof.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Like, do you remember the abrupt ending of Whiplash?
I remember it. I don't really remember it being abrupt. I do remember the ending. I don't remember if it felt abrupt to me. But granted, I haven't seen the movie since, like, I think 2015, I think.
I think it's the main character is doing his drum
he's doing
sort of
solo
solo
he's doing the
on
drum
stage.
solo, and then like he makes eye contact with J.K. Simmons, and then like gives him a nod of approval. He smiles. Movie ends.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so what a weird film to be inspired by Death Proof. I would never have made the Whiplash Death Proof connection.
Hey man, that just shows why Damien Chazelle is a fucking legend in the field, man. He's picking some inspirations out of the most fucking out of left field type movies.
Yeah, completely. Also, to say about this like female cast as well, I love that. I think that what Tarantino has said is that he actually probably prefers hanging out with women than men. Like he just sort of feels like that he bounces off hanging out with women better, and he from that has gotten quite a good understanding of women, but just hasn't really utilized it in the same way that, like, of course he's been criticized in the past for just representing these discussions between men and like boy banter, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why here he wanted to replicate these groups of women that he has hung out with before and the sort of stuff that they talk about. And it is a nice shift to get the same sort of like Reservoir Dogs diner conversation, but in a bar or even in a diner in this film. I don't know if you noticed that, but there's this diner scene with our second group of women that even has that same panning around the room as they're all talking shot.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I noticed that, and I was so fucking engrossed watching that. I'm just like, oh, this is so fucking interesting. Just keep talking. I don't even want Stuntman Mike to come back, like, because like Stuntman Mike barely like shows up during this. Like he barely shows up during the second portion of this movie. But I didn't care. I was just enjoying my time with these women, just hanging out, just fucking chilling. I was loving it.
I know, right? They've got great banter, and all of them are charismatic. Especially Zoe. Do you know Zoe?
Is it the New Zealand one?
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. Dude,
Zoe Bell.
She was great. I don't know
Zoe
her.
Bell,
I don't know her from anything, but she was great.
Zoe Bell is freaking awesome, and she is primarily a stunt woman who did the stunts for Uma Thurman in Kill Bill.
Oh, no way. Yeah, because I noticed that like she was credited as herself, so I'm like, interesting. I wonder what she's been in. And then now I did not know that. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I really, really like that. Yeah, she plays pretty much her entire self, and she pops up in a couple other of Quentin Tarantino's films from there on out. She is
nice.
She is badass as fuck, man. And yeah, she really, really carries that group, I feel, with her charisma, as well as Rosario Dawson.
Oh, yeah.
Just brilliant. I could watch Rosario Dawson do anything, though, man.
Oh yeah, mate. Like, look, we're Clerks 2 stands, alright, and we love Rosario Dawson. That man, I keep forgetting. Speaking of Rosario Dawson, I keep forgetting that like she's Ahsoka in the Star Wars, in that new Star Wars show. It's fucking weird.
Oh, I feel like that I'm hearing a lot about it, and I just, because it's Star Wars, I just tune out.
No, I have no interest either. But I always just forget, that like she's in Star Wars now. It's like, interesting.
She would be the thing to motivate me to watch it, though.
Yeah, no. Like, I look. You keep your Star Wars. I'll just go back and I'll go and watch Clerks 2 and then go have a cry because knowing what comes next.
Do you know of the Larry Clark film Kids from the 90s, right?
Yeah, that was like her like first like role, I think, right?
Yeah. It's really. I watched that recently in a cinema here, and man, hard watch of a film.
God, in a cinema, fuck. Because I've seen bits and pieces of that movie. Fuck that.
Man, it was probably the most uncomfortable cinema experience of my life. Being around other people watching it felt filthy.
God, was it was it good?
Oh, fantastic.
Okay.
Like, brilliant film. And also...
Okay, so, like, the disgusting nature, the disgusting, uncomfortable nature of it works, I guess. But I assume so, because that's what I've heard about this film and all that.
The comforting thing is thinking that everyone in this theater must be thinking the exact same thing and must be equally uncomfortable. So we can just share and bask in this discomfort and awkwardness.
Yes, well, we can hope. Let's hope there's no one actually enjoying the uncomfortable shit. If you catch my drift.
Well, speaking of Rosario Dawson in uncomfortable situations, do you think, Kane, that Kurt Russell actually licked Rosario Dawson's feet in this movie, or do you think that she had a feet double?
I'm gonna guess that he actually did lick her feet. I don't know. That just seems like something that Tarantino would just allow.
I feel like that all of them would have been cool with it happening. Like, every single one of those players would have been like, fuck it, let's just have it happening.
Hell, I'd let Kurt Russell lick my feet.
Exactly. If it has to be done, it has to be done.
Maybe not with the... Look, if I have one criticism about this movie, I hate Kurt Russell's beard in the second half. I hate it.
Oh, really?
I don't like it. He looks so much fucking better in the first portion of the movie with this, like, the clean shave. Or maybe that's just me being on my high horse because I am a shaved man now. I no longer have beard.
I'm a shaved man now. I've joined the upper echelons of society.
This is me turning my back on the beard brethren. This is me turning my back on them all.
Man, that's sad, man. You were really, really definitively on that camp, and now you're just leaving them all behind.
Well, you know, I don't know. I have a jawline now, people. Let me have this.
You know, the jawline makes it all worth it.
Exactly.
One actor in both of these films that I really, really want to highlight is, man, Tarantino's acting in both of these is bad. The worst so far.
It's pretty rough. I find it fucking hilarious that his cameo in Planet Terror, credited as Rapist 1.
I know, right? You know the only thing worse than that?
What?
Being credited as Rapist number 2.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, there's nothing worse. Like, yeah, being credited as a rapist is bad, but being second fiddle rapist,
second rapist
that's,
on the
fucking
on the
sucks.
call sheet. Yeah, that would suck.
That is.
But
oh my fucking God.
It is funny though that he's credited as rapist number 1, but it just feels really... His cameo in Planet Terror as Rapist number 1 is just really gross. It just feels really, really gross. It doesn't feel like that there's any nuance or joke to it other than it just being a bit gross, you know?
Yeah. There's nothing... Like, there was charm in his earlier cameos and all that. I love his little cameo roles in Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. They're bad, but I love them. But then, yeah, in these, it's just like, I mean, look, his cameo in Death Proof is a bit more easier to swallow, I guess.
Oh, better. Definitely better.
Yeah, but, like, it's not great, but, you know, whatever.
It's better than... Very much...
It's better than
It's very
Rapist
much writing
1.
himself... Yeah, better than Rapist 1, but also very much writing himself as, like, I'm the cool guy who owns the bar that everyone loves.
Yeah, definitely. And would you say that this is more egregious than his cameo in 4 Rooms?
No. 4 Rooms is next level egregiousness. Yeah. Because, like, owning a bar, being, like, the cool guy that gives everyone booze is definitely just a step below the egregiousness of, I'm Mr. Hollywood. I represent Hollywood and success and coolness and... Yeah, like, I think that's way more lame.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. Page because I feel the same way.
Yeah, writing yourself as the symbol of stardom is pretty fucking bad.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of trivia for you, Kane.
Oh, dude, it's my favorite portion of the show. Let's fucking go.
Okay, this one is a blink and you miss it moment.
Okay.
In the final scene of the film, of Death Proof, when Kurt Russell is being chased down by the stunt women, Kurt Russell crashes through a drive-in advertisement for a double billing. What are the 2 films that are being shown at this double billing?
Fuck, I didn't realize it was a double billing because I know one of them. One of them's Scary Movie 4. I don't remember the other one though.
Okay, let's see if I can give I'll give you a clue.
Okay, nice.
The other one is also very, very good memory for remembering Scary Movie 4.
Well, yeah, it's funny because that's the only Scary Movie I've actually never seen.
Oh, okay.
I've tried watching it. Lawrence and I have tried watching it, but we fell asleep and we've just never bothered to rewatch it. I think I fell asleep like after the opening sequence with Shaq and Dr. Phil in the saw trap.
Well, get ready for our Scary Movie marathon.
Oh, that'd be fucked.
Okay, the other film is probably one of the most popular, famous, critically received Australian horror films.
Oh, Wolf Creek.
Yes, correct!
Oh,
ding, ding,
fucking
ding, ding.
no. Oh, really? Interesting.
All of these Tarantino trivias, you've been getting 100% correct.
Man,
so,
fucking hell. That your Tarantino knowledge and, like, lore and all that is just rubbing off on me naturally. Jesus.
Man, well, I'm here to educate, and man, you are proving an extremely efficient student.
Man, fucking hell, I got that bloody 95% ATAR in fucking Tarantino-ology.
I think that after that win, we should keep this to we should take it to a close. But what are your any final thoughts on this Grindhouse double billing?
Honestly, I will say that I went in with pretty low expectations, honestly. But I had fun. Even if Planet Terror was a very forgettable whatever film that I'm never going to watch again, I still had fun with it. And, you know, even if the movie was complete hot garbage, I will gladly watch that movie just so I can get to Death Proof, which is just such a fun fucking time, such a satisfying watch, and oh my fucking god, I'm upset that I haven't watched this sooner. I'm so upset I haven't watched Death Proof sooner.
Oh, man, I'm glad that you're at least getting to it now, and this is one of those films that when making a new friend, or getting a new girlfriend or something like that, I want to show them Death Proof and be like, are you feeling the same thing I'm feeling? Because if you are, there's a bond here.
Oh, God bless.
And so I found it so satisfying, and it made me forget about Planet Terror, which was a good thing. And yeah, I was so satisfied by how clever it was and the nuance that is there. But I do want to finish us off on something that I haven't told you yet, Kane. Yeah. But Death Proof has, in a way, changed my life a little bit.
Has it now?
It has. And this is how.
Okay.
Is that there's one scene in the first act of Death Proof where Stuntman Mike is explaining to one of the women in the first group that he has this little book that he carries around with him that pretty much what he's responding to is this idea that when someone says something good or someone says something bad, they say, that's all right in my book, or that's no good in my book.
Yeah.
But Stuntman Mike has a little book that he writes down every person's name in that he meets with little notes about them. So technically, if someone pisses him off, it's not good, and it's not alright in his book. And it got me thinking about how bad I am with names. And with the new job that I have, I'm meeting these people all the time, and it's all about networking, it's all about getting to know new people, and then recognizing them at the next time that you see them, blah, 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 blah. So, since rewatching Death Proof, I now have a little book.
Oh, really?
That I take with me everywhere, that every person that I have met and will meet from the time that I've rewatched Death Proof, which was about a week ago now, I'm writing in this little book.
Oh, that's so fucking cool.
And I owe that to Stuntman Mike. Have a lovely night, everyone. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like podcast without the ask.